All right, guys, let's grade our first AP uh, free response questions. Okay. So the way the AP grading works is each problem gets 4 points. Okay. And so they'll usually have four different things. Like for this problem, there's 2 points for part A and 2 points for part B. Okay. You can get partial credit sometimes, a lot of the times. Okay. So let's take a look. Here we go. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. So here's what we got. So the first very, very, very important thing, and what the reason that one of our lessons in I think day 5 of this unit was to make sure you are paying attention to who the population of interest is. Who are they wanting to generalize to? Well, if you read carefully in this problem, it says they want to estimate the proportion of students living in the dormitories who think that the quality of food should be improved. So that means they are wanting to make an opinion statement about the students living in the dormitories. Okay, so we need to make sure that the people they ask are representative of the students living in the dormitories. Okay, but look, one evening, the manager asked the first 100 students entering the dining hall to answer the following question. So, right there, we should have some issues with that. They ask the students entering the dining hall, and I have it there underlined in red. The students entering the dining hall, especially, he's about to ask them about the quality of the food served there. So that's an issue. That's a big deal. Okay, that this would be a convenience sampling because you're asking people coming into the dining hall about the food quality and service. Um, so those people that come into the dining hall are not like all the students in the dorms. Some of the students that live in the dorms don't like the food in the dining hall, so they don't go to the dining hall. Okay. It's similar to our problems we've recently had about asking the people at Bearcat Park if they think Bearcat Park is safe. The parents who aren't there. Okay. It's also asking the people standing in the line at the amusement park, waiting for a ride, if they're okay with standing in line waiting for a ride. Okay. Not going to be representative of all patrons. Here we go. Here's our question. Many students believe that the food served in the dining hall needs improvement. Do you think that the quality of food served here needs improvement, even though that would increase the cost of the meal plan? Yes, no, or no opinion. So let's look at what the first question asks very carefully because we have to make sure we answer the question and fully answer the question. In this setting, explain how bias may have been introduced based on the way of the convenience sampling. That's this situation. Taking the 100 students from the dining hall, there's where the convenience sampling came into play. Because, see, look, down here on question B is when it says, explain how the bias has been introduced in this question on the way the question was worded. That's now addressing the questions they asked here. Okay, so there is multiple things wrong with this design, and so that's what we're addressing is those two separate things and how to fix them. Okay, so furthermore, this says, here we'll get started. Because the manager asked the first 100 students entering the dining hall, there is under coverage bias. It said, explain how bias may have been introduced. They actually did not require that you called it under coverage. Okay. That what they were looking for here is that you say it was because of the first 100 students entering the dining hall. Okay. And that the first 100 students entering the dining hall might have different opinions than all students in the dormitory. Okay. Because they're already going there. So they already demonstrate that they think the food is okay. All right. So that was 1 point. Again, you didn't have to use that vocabulary under coverage, but you had to say their opinion. The first 100 people had an opinion not like all the dormitory students. Okay. And it says, suggest how the sample could have been selected differently to avoid that bias. That means suggest, be specific. How are you going to take a sample so that you get a representative sample of all the students in the dormitories? Okay, so I wrote this. If the manager wants to generalize to students who live in the dormitories, okay, so that's really who they're wanting to see, that you present something that will generalize to all the students in the dormitory. If you don't do that and you just are still generalizing to people that go to the cafeteria, if you're still asking people out coming out of the cafeteria or in the cafeteria, it's not working. It has to be all the dormitory students. All right. She could take a random sample of dormitory students. She could ask every 10th person going into every dormitory, so kind of stratified by dorm and then did systematic from there, between the hours of 7 and 8 p.m. Okay. So they're not real picky on what you actually did, but you had to explain how you were going to do it, and it has to give a representative sample of dorm students. Okay. Next. This is same thing, explain how the wording is biased and how you would fix it. Okay, so the first thing on this one is I think there are two sets of phrases in the question that would affect the response. And here's what I listed. You only had to list one of them. Okay, there were two wording problems. One of the wording problems was this first sentence. First part, many students believe that the food served in the dining hall needs improvement. Okay, that's join the bandwagon. Everybody else thinks it's bad, so you should think it's bad also. Okay. All right. And so then, so you could say either that one, or you could say the one at the end that says, do you want to improve the food, even though that would increase the cost of the meal plan? Okay. So either one of those two things had to be stated for a point, that those were influencing the response. So now you have to fix it. So here's the way I fixed it. The question wording would not promote response bias if those two phrases were left off. And the question was simply, do you think the quality of food in the dining hall needs improvement? Done. That's it. Okay? So that's how you would get your 4 points. And I think I'm going to break this video into two parts. So there's your 1, 2, 3, 4. Just okay, so let's look at our strategies. Identifying the population. Okay? Look, identifying the differences between those two things, they were very similar. Convenience sample versus wording bias. Making sure you do both parts. Explain and then suggest anew. Here, explain and then suggest anew. Okay? Full thing, go all the way through it. All right. I'm going to stop there and we'll go to the next question, which is about experimental design.